When the Frock report came out, it says, no amount of vitamin D is toxic, but we have discovered that if you take the 20 milligrams, million units every day, that you can eliminate cancer, lupus, MS, and diabetes. So the drug industry said, wow. They got together and they produced 4 of the best-selling drugs of all times, made hundreds of millions of dollars, billions of dollars, and all they were vitamin D placebos. So you see, they know vitamin D works because they made so much money using it as a drug. And it's not a drug. It's a natural nutrient from God.
So Bob, if you had someone close to you that had cancer, say breast cancer, for example. Now, you're not a doctor, so you can't prescribe medicines or drugs. But what would you tell them about coral calcium and vitamin D?
Well, I'd send them to the book and say, look, read. Look what the scientists are saying. Look at the credentials of the scientists. These are the best medical researchers on earth. Vitamin D, the calcium, the sunshine, they're curing cancer.
And they would be cured?
Yes.
But we're saying that there are cures out there.
Yes, but you have to understand that 75 years ago, a medical researcher called Otto Warburg won 2 Nobel Prizes for determining the cause of cancer. The cause of cancer. And he determined the cause was anaerobism, which is lack of oxygen. Now, he won the Nobel Prize for that. He came to America to teach the students in Berkeley University. You know what he said? There's no disease we know more about the cause and the cure than cancer. But because of your agnostics in the AMA and the FDA, he said, these godless men, they will prevent Americans from taking the nutrients they need. And he says, millions of Americans will die needlessly. And since he said that, 30 million Americans have died. John Wayne didn't have to die. Steve McQueen didn't have to die. Michael Landon didn't have to die. If they'd come to us, they'd all be alive today. That's what Otto Warburg said, and he was the best of the best.
So when you send your books to people who have cancer and you say, look what the scientific community is saying, coral calcium and vitamin D, would they be cured?
Yes.
And so why isn't this front page news? Why isn't this something that's out there?
Well, first off, front page news has to be reported by television, newspapers, radio. Now, therein lies the problem. You see, the drug industry, which makes hundreds of billions to trillions of dollars every year, they have the ads. Most television stations spend 80% of their money comes from drug ads. So you see, the drug companies own the television stations, they own the radio stations, they own, and those people and those stations, they don't want to jeopardize this huge income. So alternative medicine is just totally out. It's out to whack. And you know, there was a story on CNN, and it was just 2006, December 29th. And you know what it said? Massive study, multi-million man study, proves vitamin D terminates 50% of all cancers. You know, if there was a drug that would terminate 50% of all cancers, it would be worth trillions and trillions of dollars. They would have it on radio, television, thousands of times every day. Every time you turned around, you'd be hearing about it. Oprah Winfrey would do a special show on it. I mean, my God. And here CNN is with the hottest story of the 21st century, and because of their drug revenues, the story was killed. They were brought to their knees by the drug industry.
Bob Barefoot, now, for the first time in 5 years, has come back on television after being sued by the government. They tried to stop him from talking and expressing his opinions and releasing the scientific suppressed studies on how nutrients are curing diseases all around the world.
The information that we just heard was phenomenal. And as I mentioned before, all of the books that we talked about are right here in this package and can be yours for the price of shipping and handling. Yes, shipping and handling. That's right, all of these books in a package worth $180 can be yours. So get to the phones now and order them as soon as possible so that you can be armed with the information to protect yourself and your family. Call the numbers on the screen right now to order your copies. Unbelievable. This information is just so informative. I cannot wait to hear what he has to say next.
Truly, just a wealth of information, Bob Barefoot is, and so I think it'll be an exciting segment.
He really is. I'm going to go out and get my calcium.
Kevin Trudeau is currently in lawsuits with the government, and they're trying to stop the sale of his books as well as Bob's. He claims that they're trying to ban these books and they could be banned at any time. He successfully sued the state of New York for attempting to ban those books on television.
Yes. And when was the last time the books were banned? 1938, the Nazis in Germany, the Nazis that killed millions of Jews. And today, we have the new Nazis, the FDA. They don't kill millions of Jews. Instead, they kill millions of black Americans. And they're just like the Nazis of the past. They dress in black uniforms, put on machine guns, and then go smashing down the doors of homes and offices of innocent and unsuspecting Americans. Hitler would be proud of the new Nazi FDA. You see, he didn't like blacks either. Ever since he had to pin 2 gold medals on Jesse Owens at the 1938 Olympics, he despised blacks. You could hear Hitler say from hell, FDA, for drugs always. FDA, for drugs always. You know, the president doesn't know that these book-banning critters that he's hired in his government agency have gone wild. I think something has to be done. Turn the agency over to me, and I'll clean them up right away.
Bob, that's a mouthful.
Yes.
And I'll tell you, if you call right now, we're going to give you all of these books absolutely free. If you want one of them or if you want all of them, we'll send you all the books, any of the books that you would like. All you have to do is pay a shipping and processing charge for each book. But the books are free, and there is no catch. If you're concerned about your health, call the 1-800 number now and get the books. This book right here, The Disease Conspiracy, the FDA Suppression of Cures, has studies and scientific research that you should read.
Yes, and they're by the world's best scientists. Immaculate credentials.
Now, in your book, you call them suppressed clinical studies. Why do you do that?
Yes, because you never see a scientist standing up and saying, I can cure cancer. If he did, he loses his research funding. And a scientist with no research funding is not a scientist. And a doctor who stands up and says it, bam, loses his license.
Now, you've documented how calcium and vitamin D can cure disease, but what about leukemia? Is that curable with coral calcium or vitamin D?
Yes, with sunshine.
So but you could never say that before. You could never say that before, but now you're saying it. But how can you say that when, if you had 10 medical doctors here, they'd all say that wasn't true?
Yes, but look at their credentials. Not one of the medical doctors is a scientist. I mean, would you ask the milkman about brain surgery? Well, you might as well not ask the medical doctor about nutrition, because you see, they're not trained 5 minutes in nutrition. They're only trained about drugs, drugs, drugs.
But they are doctors, and they went to medical school.
Yes, but they only learned drugs.
Okay, so
no nutrition.
You're making these statements based on what?
Based on the fact that there are massive studies out there. There are hundreds to thousands of scientists all saying God's nutrients cure. My goodness, look at who they are. Look at their credentials. I write about them in my book. You'll be stunned when you see them. I mean, wow.
Well, you mentioned the word toxic in this book a great deal. You talk about the drug industry and the use of the word toxic.
Well, they don't say toxic. They use the words could be toxic. Because you see, if they use the word toxic, they'd be thrown out, because there's massive proof that vitamins are not toxic. I mean, when's the last time you heard of somebody dying for the vitamin? They're not toxic.
Okay. So I want to talk about the epidemic today. I mean, as we know it, it's widespread. We're talking about cancer.
Okay. Well, you know, in 1900, 3% of Americans got cancer. By 1950, it rose to 20%. In 1972, President Nixon declared war on cancer. We're going to bring it down. Well, it was 27%. Then, in 1999, it was 39%. It's calculated by the year 2020, 50% of all Americans will get cancer. My God, and here we are today telling you we could wipe cancer off the map.
So we're saying that all cancers can be cured?
Yes, all cancers.
So it's amazing, but what would you say if I told you I had a friend who had prostate cancer?
I would say, please, read the books, learn, listen, and you know, I can introduce them to 100 other men who have come to me with prostate cancer, and it's gone.